your kettle might be ruining your beer. Let's get into that. So, rinsing it out, giving it a basic clean, it's a good start. But it doesn't get to some of the finer core problems that might be occurring. We're going to be looking at cleaning your kettle just like the big breweries clean the big machines. So stick around, watch to the end. We'll give you a few tips along the way. Protein buildup, mineral scale, and something not all brewers actually think about, biofilm. We'll explain along the way what biofilm is. So today I'm going to give you some pro-level cleaning tips and routine that you can do on your homebrewing equipment at home. So before we even touch a sponge, what are we actually going to be doing? Well, let's talk about actually cleaning your kettle. We want to get everything nice and clean, ready for your next brew day. The stuff that we're going to be basically covering is getting rid of the organic matter, that is your grains and your hops and stuff that are inside you. We're also going to be looking at descaling. We're going to be looking at the biofilm, like I said earlier on, and we're going to be looking at different elements that you want to maybe consider before you actually start your brew the next time. So what are the problems that may occur in your kettles? Well, it's quite simple. Obviously, protein, sugar, and hop oil buildup. That's quite normal, but easy to remove. Also, stuff like beer stone and calcium buildups and that sort of thing, that could really not affect your beer too much, but it is a place for infections to hide sometimes, and also just keeps everything looking nice and clean and easy to inspect. Another issue could be biofilm formation. We are going to get into biofilm a little bit later on, and we're also going to go through a couple of steps to help you not getting any of those issues in your kettle. Another thing we want to also cover is how do you know your kettle's actually clean? Or how do you know the chemicals are actually out of your kettle? Well, we're going to cover that too. Step 1, and something that brewers often don't do, is rinsing directly after boiling. That is when your boil is finished, get everything out, get it rinsed off. This helps you eliminate all the organic matters and clean off any residues that may be built on during the boiling process. That's stuff like proteins, sugars, and the hop oils. You want to do that as soon as possible when your kettle's still warm. The only reason why you want to do that while it's still warm is as it cools down, it hardens and it makes it harder to remove. So, doing it directly after boiling is a great step. Sometimes that doesn't always happen. What you're going to need to do is heat everything back up again. It is a bit of a waste of time and electricity, but it's better to do it when it's hot. It helps remove everything a lot quicker. So basically, get your kettle, hose pipe, and start rinsing stuff off. Take everything out that you can take out. Like if you've got a little grain bed like that, spray it off as soon as possible. Any parts that can be removed like this, take that out, rinse it off, give it a good rinsing. Using hot water can also help. And again, keeping stuff nice and warm is going to help things not solidify and make it more difficult. Another thing you're going to need to look at is most of these brewing kettles, they've got pumps, they've got tubes that are coming up, even tubes like this. You're going to want to spray that out as much as possible. Get inside your spray properly. Open and close valves so that you can kind of get into those little hidden, tricky to see places. Get as much of it as sprayed down as possible and remove as much as you can. So your next step is going to be using actual cleaning items like PBW. PBW is a high alkaline based cleaner, perfect for any kettles. You even got stuff like OxyRinse that'll help you keep everything nice and clean. This is going to be sort of a two-part process. You want to follow obviously all your manufacturer's instructions and process, make sure you're not ruining your kettle in any way, but follow all the instructions on your chemicals. So the first step is going to be a soak for about 30 to 60 minutes. That is to make sure everything is nice and kind of covered. And you want to probably circulate your pumps, make sure that all the nonsense that's inside your pumps is out. Then your next step is pretty much going to be doing a little bit of scrubbing. Now, scrubbing, one very important tip is don't use anything harder than the surface that you're cleaning. What does that mean? Don't use something like hard scrubbers, metal scrubbers, even on your stainless steel. Micro scratches can cause infections where there's little hidden places where bacteria and fungus and stuff like to kind of live and stay. So even something like this, which is usually used as a pan scourer can be a little bit tough, especially on things like plastic, but using a sponge, perfectly fine. A scrubber like this with actual plastic bristles, this is what's used in most breweries, giving it a good scrub inside, making sure you're getting into all the corners, any of the seams that you got into, and give it a good scrub. That helps loosen any dirt, anything that's kind of hidden away. It's going to get rid of it. Things to also look out for are places like ball valves, tubes like this, anything that you might have like inside you, if there's a little nut and bolt, you probably want to remove that. Get any seals that are out, there's a little seal inside you, a little rubber seal that you want to get out. Make sure that all your pieces like this are in a solution, let it soak. Anything that you might have like these little things, you probably want to take this apart, making sure that you're getting into kind of tight spaces like these threads. So on the hot side, that's basically when your boiling is happening. It's not very crucial to get sanitizing happening. Now, this is all important when you're going to move over to the cold side and going into transfer. We will get into that a little bit later, but keeping it all clean now will help the sanitizing later. So the next step you want to probably take, now this can be done every probably 5th to 10th brew, is an acid descaling. Acid descaling is when you're using an acid-based product to get rid of stuff like beer stone and calcium buildups in your machine. You might find kind of a chalky white residue, especially around heating elements, or a little bit of browning around the edges, sometimes even a kind of a rainbow color. That can all be caused from heating, from protein buildups. The reason why you want to get rid of some of this is it can be a place for infections to be living and being happy, which is going to get into your final brew if you're not careful. So acid descaling, simple, use an acid-based product like this ChemiPro CRP, known as Clean in Place. This is a phosphoric acid base, if I'm not mistaken, which is perfectly fine to use. Obviously, again, follow on the instructions, and very important when you're dealing with acids, use your PPE, use gloves, use eye protection. You don't want to get injured from a cleaning chemical. Nobody wants that. Other chemicals you could probably use, again, like I said, there's the phosphoric acid. Citric acid is also quite decent to use. Acetic acid, also known as vinegar, is okay. It's not as strong. It can leave a bit of a smell. You're going to want to rinse that out properly. It's probably better to go with something like a proper cleaning product like that. So quite easy to do. And like I said, every maybe 5th to 10th brew, and it depends on how many times you brew, so not too difficult. So let's get into biofilms. So what is a biofilm? Well, biofilm is basically when bacteria and fungus join together, they form a kind of little ecosystem. That ecosystem builds a protective shield over itself to kind of protect itself. The problem is this is hard to detect and sometimes even harder to get rid of. You might know what biofilms are like when you kind of touch a slimy rock. It's that cover. The problem lies is sanitizers cannot always penetrate these biofilms. It's probably 10 to 1,000 times harder for a sanitizer to actually get through that shield, which means that that infection is sitting inside your kettle. So the ways to prevent it is obviously good cleaning with a good alkaline-based cleaner and scrubbing. You also want to inspect anything that biofilms can kind of harden places, stuff like threads, little ball valves, even inside your pump. You want to try and clean that up as often as possible and don't let it cause a biofilm. If you do find that you've got a biofilm, it is a little bit difficult to get rid of, but using, again, those alkaline-based cleaners, you can give it a good soak, take everything apart, scrubbing it off properly. You can also get enzymatic cleaners. Those are probably one of the best things to get rid of biofilms, is an enzymatic cleaner. We do have some of those more for the commercial side, but it can be used in your kettle. Something like Brew would work fine on a kettle like this. So how do you know if you've got a biofilm? You don't really. It's something you can't really see sometimes. But if you're experiencing off-flavours in your beer, possibly slimy surfaces inside your kettle, things like that, you could possibly have a biofilm infection. In that case, the only ways, again, to get rid of it is giving it a good cleaning, soaking it in an alkaline-based, very strong alkaline-based solution, and physically scrubbing things. That's pretty much the only way you're going to really eliminate that biofilm. again, you might need to start taking things apart and possibly even replacing things. So try and avoid it by giving it a proper good clean every single time you use your kettle. So one of the final steps of your cleaning procedure will be doing a pH strip verification. What does that mean? Well, basically using something like this, pH strips, to know that all your chemicals are out of your kettle. By testing the water that's coming out, it should be at neutral, which is about 7. You can know that all the cleaning chemicals have actually been removed out of your kettle. This is actually something that we do in our own brewery to test if all the cleaning chemicals are out of our big kettles and even out of our fermenters. It's a surefire way you can know that all the alkaline or acid-based cleaners are out of your kettle. And again, it's as simple as once you've done your rinsing after your cleaning, take out a pH strip and doing a test. Simple as that. So why do you want to do that? Well, the chemicals that could be left inside your kettles can cause stuff like off-flavours, can actually ruin the metals or plastics or whatever else your kettle is made out of. So making sure that all the chemicals are removed from your kettles is a surefire way to know that you're ready for your next beer. So your final step, and something that maybe a lot of brewers don't actually do, is making sure everything is dry. You know, we kind of want to carry on and get to our next beer, but it is quite an important step. You want to make sure that everything is dry on the inside. Once you finish cleaning, put your kettle upside down, let it drain out, using a cloth, give it a good wipe down afterwards. The reason why you want to do that, infections, funguses, biofilms, like wet places. So making sure everything is nice and dry before you store it is a good way to know that your next brew will be fine. So keep everything inside here together, that's fine, but don't put the lid on because condensation, can cause things to get wet again. So keep everything nice and dry when you're storing it. Simple. So early on we spoke about the hot side and the cold side. Again, what does that mean? Your hot side is where your boiling's happening. That is where, heat is happening. Now, most of the times, infections will die away from the heat. But when you're moving over to the cold side, which is going into your fermenter, that's the transfer from your kettle to your fermenter, it is vital that you keep everything sanitary now. Cleaning gets rid of all the nasty things inside you, all the protein buildups and the oils and stuff like that. But sanitizing is going to stop all those little micro nasties from getting into your beer. So transfer, for instance, on this kettle, we would use the circulation pump. We'd have this little guy hooked onto here, tube running into your fermenter. Those sort of things need to be kept sanitary. That is using a sanitizer on all your parts that are going to be touching your beer that's going to go into your final fermentation. So again, things to keep sanitary, things like ball valves, things that are going to be touching your wort that's going into your fermenter, tubes, anything, hoses, that sort of thing. You want to keep that sanitized. Now we're going to be talking about hidden infections. Those are things that can be hiding inside your kettle. What that is kind of referred to is something called a dead leg. A dead leg is basically where you're going to have your wort or your beer getting to a place that doesn't have proper circulation or proper flow. This can be, again, hidden places like inside ball valves. It could be hidden places like inside your pumps. Now, having a good cleaning routine will eliminate dead legs being a problem. Dead legs, again, are difficult to get to. That's why they call them dead legs. But removing stuff and trying to get into your valves and trying to get into these pipes, looking and inspecting, could help you see potential sources of infections. And again, take whatever you can remove off and clean it off separately. Things like threads, things like these little bolts, removing little seals, removing things like that will help you make better beer at the end. So let's do a quick recap. Cleaning is vital in any brewing process. Today we covered the kettle. We are going to bring you some more videos on the other brewing elements. There's a saying that we were once told, that brewers are cleaners that do brewing on the side. And unfortunately, that is the name of the game if you want to make excellent beer. So we've covered the kettle today. We are going to bring you some more videos on other brewing equipment that help you make better beer at the end of the day. So basically, rinse everything off when it's nice and warm, just after brew day. It helps you clean a bit quicker, making sure you're using good cleaners, making sure you're having a acid wash every now and again, like I said, 5 to 10 brews, and making sure you don't have places that infections like to hide. Keeping everything nice and clean is going to give you excellent beer at the end of the day. And as always, guys, happy brewing.